What happened this weekend in NASCAR felt huge, and at the exact same time, it felt messy. Because on one side, we just watched something that almost never happens in modern NASCAR, something so rare that the entire garage immediately started talking about it. But on the other side, the radios were heated, drivers were frustrated, and by the time the weekend ended, fans online were already throwing around words that nobody likes hearing in this sport. And that's when you know a race weekend is bigger than just a finishing order. Because this wasn't just about who crossed the line first, it was about history, pressure, frustration, and a conversation that suddenly exploded across the NASCAR community right after the checkered flag. And trust me, when we break down everything that happened, the reactions inside the garage, what drivers were saying after the race, and why some fans are now questioning the moment, this story gets way more interesting than it looked at first. But before we dive into all that, real quick, if you're a real NASCAR fan like me and you enjoy talking about what's actually happening in the sport every week, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This channel is brand new, and the goal right now is to reach 1,000 subscribers with people who truly follow NASCAR and love talking about racing. Now let's talk about what actually happened on track. Because before we get into the frustration, the reactions, and the online debate, the first truth from this weekend is actually pretty simple. Tyler Reddick delivered, and I mean really delivered. He started the race on pole at the Circuit of the Americas, and from the moment the green flag dropped, you could already see the number 45 car had serious pace. Throughout the race, he controlled the rhythm, stayed clean through the chaos that usually happens at COTA, and when everything finally settled late in the race, he pulled away when it mattered the most. Reddick led 58 laps, the most of anyone in the race, and when the checkered flag came out, he beat Shane van Gisbergen by 3.944 seconds. Now that number matters a lot because Shane van Gisbergen came into this race as the absolute benchmark on road courses. The guy had won 5 straight NASCAR Cup Series road course races, and he was chasing something historic himself, the chance to tie Jeff Gordon's record of 6 straight road course wins. That's the level of driver Reddick had to beat. And he didn't beat him with strategy or luck. He beat him straight up. When the race reached those final laps, Reddick simply stretched the gap and never gave SVG the opening he needed. No mistake, no late dive, nothing. Just pure speed and execution. And because of that, Tyler Reddick officially became the first driver in NASCAR Cup Series history to win the first 3 races of a season. Not tied, not matched, the only one. Think about that for a second. Daytona 500, Atlanta Motor Speedway, and now Circuit of the Americas. 3 completely different tracks, 3 totally different styles of racing, super speedway chaos at Daytona, pack racing at Atlanta, and a technical road course in Austin. And Reddick and the number 45 team answered all 3. That's not just a hot start. That's the kind of start that changes the tone of an entire championship before the season even really gets rolling. And you could hear in Reddick's voice after the win that he understood exactly how hard that final step was. Speaking to Fox after the victory, he talked about those final laps and said he was just trying to remember everything that would matter at the end and minimize mistakes. Because when you're racing someone like Shane van Gisbergen, you know one thing for sure, that guy almost never makes mistakes. Reddick literally said it himself, Shane is so good because he just doesn't give things away. And when Reddick said the win means the world, you could tell this wasn't just another points day for him. This was beating the modern road course king when it mattered most. For the past couple of years, drivers across the garage have been trying to figure out how to beat van Gisbergen on these tracks. On Sunday, Reddick finally did it. And honestly, that's part of why this victory hits so hard across the garage, because there was nothing fluky about it. The number 45 car looked like the best car, the best driver, and the most complete team all afternoon. Even Shane van Gisbergen himself basically confirmed that after the race. He didn't sound like someone who thought something was taken from him. He actually sounded like a driver who simply got beat. He said it felt weird to be disappointed finishing second because it was still a great points day. And he even praised Reddick's driving, saying it was amazing and that they just didn't quite have enough speed to match him. And that reaction matters, because if anyone had the right to feel robbed, it would have been the guy chasing history himself. Instead, SVG basically told everyone the truth. The better driver won that day. But then something else happened that made this moment feel even bigger. Michael Jordan stepped in front of the cameras, and whenever Michael Jordan talks after a race, people listen.
Michael told Fox something that immediately caught everyone's attention. He said, "It's time to change." He talked about how much pressure Tyler Reddick had coming into this race with the chance to win 3 in a row, saying that the third win is always the hardest one. But that phrase, "time to change," that's the part people keep replaying, because it sounded like Michael Jordan wasn't just celebrating one win. It sounded like he believes 2311 racing is changing the balance of power in NASCAR. And he also made it very clear who helped build this team. Jordan gave a lot of credit to Denny Hamlin, saying Hamlin was the one who identified Tyler Reddick as the driver they needed and helped assemble the group around him, including crew chief Billy Scott. And Jordan even joked that his role was mostly just putting up the money. But when the owner saying that is Michael Jordan, the moment suddenly feels even bigger. Then came one of the most emotional reactions of the entire weekend, Kurt Busch. And this one really mattered because Kurt isn't just a former driver talking from the outside. He actually drove the number 45 car for 2311 Racing before his career-ending injury. So when he saw Reddick accomplish this, it clearly hit him on a personal level. Busch sent a message congratulating the team and said he couldn't be more proud of Tyler Reddick and the entire organization. He shouted out Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan, Billy Scott, and the whole program, saying that what they just did, 3 wins to start the season, was history. And you could feel the pride in that message, because people who saw 2311 in its early stages know how far this team has come. For them, this wasn't just a strong start. It was proof that the organization has truly become what they believed it could be. But here's where the mood of the weekend suddenly shifts, because while Reddick and 2311 were celebrating history, not everyone left COTA feeling like they got a fair shot at the result they deserved. The clearest example of that frustration came from Connor Zillich. Now, if you only look at the final results, you'll see Zillich finished 14th, and that doesn't look terrible on paper. But according to him, that result doesn't even come close to reflecting how good his race actually was. After the race, he said something that really captured the frustration drivers feel in chaotic races like this. He said he felt like he drove one of the best races of his entire career and still ended up 14th. He admitted straight up that it sucked. And he also explained the 2 incidents that derailed his race. In one of them, he said Daniel Suarez was right behind him, and it looked like Suarez squared him up and hit him. Then, in another incident, he said he was already committed into the corner when he got T-boned, and he didn't even fully understand what happened. So from his perspective, he did almost everything right and still ended up with a result that looks mediocre. And that's the kind of thing that creates a weird emotional split after big races. One part of the garage celebrating history, another driver walking away feeling like the chaos at COTA took away a real opportunity. And that frustration wasn't limited to the Cup race either. Over in the Xfinity series, there was already a feeling that late race chaos at COTA was ruining strong runs. Carson Kvapil, who was closely connected to the JR Motorsports program, left the weekend frustrated after what looked like a really solid race got derailed near the end. Kvapil explained that the team was probably going to finish around 8th place before a late caution changed everything. Suddenly, the strategy got complicated and the result didn't reflect how strong the car actually was. And that's the strange part of whole weekend, because NASCAR had a genuinely historic victory happen right in front of everyone. Yet by the end of the weekend, a lot of the conversation wasn't about the quality of the win. It was about frustration, wrecks, perception, and controversy. And that's exactly where the stolen victory narrative started showing up online. Now, let's be very clear about something. This idea didn't come from anything that happened directly in the race itself. It started online. Some fans began connecting the timing of Tyler Reddick's hot start with the recent legal settlement between NASCAR and the teams, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, because those teams had been in a legal dispute with NASCAR not long ago. And now, suddenly, Reddick is out here winning everything. So a group of fans started connecting dots. But here's the key point. There is zero actual evidence that anything about the race at COTA was manipulated or handed to anyone. If you look at the race itself, the facts are simple. Tyler started on pole, he led 58 laps, and he beat the best road course driver in the field by almost 4 seconds. That's not a suspicious finish. That's dominance. Right now, the stolen talk is purely a perception story, not a racing story. And honestly, the strongest argument against that conspiracy chatter is still Shane van Gisbergen's own reaction. Because if anyone had the right to feel like something was wrong, it would be the guy chasing history himself. Instead, SVG basically told everyone the truth. The better driver won that day. And that's why this entire weekend feels so strange when you look back at it. Tyler Reddick earned one of the most important wins of the modern NASCAR era. Michael Jordan had every reason to celebrate. Kurt Busch felt proud seeing the team reach that level. But at the exact same time, Connor Zillich was gutted after a race that slipped away. Carson Kvapil was frustrated about how strategy and cautions changed his result. And the loud section of fans online instantly turned the story into something darker. That combination, historic win mixed with backlash, frustration, and suspicion, is why this race weekend feels less like a normal recap and more like the beginning of a much bigger conversation around NASCAR right now. Because the racing itself is still incredibly good, but the trust around it feels shakier than it probably should. And that leads to the real question NASCAR fans are debating right now. Was Tyler